Hello, welcome to Breakfast All Day. I'm Matt, and here with Alonso and Christy. The movie we're talking about right now, I'm Your Woman. I am not your woman, but
Neither am I.
I am.
Yeah.
So this is the third film from director Julia Hart, and for my money, she's 3 for 3. She made her debut with Miss Stevens, a movie that I'm still banging the gong for. And then last year, time is a blur. She had this amazing film called Fast Color, which is kind of like an art house superhero film with a really great performance from Gugu Mbatha-Raw. This time, we have Rachel Brosnahan from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel playing what would appear to be at first to be your stock unhappy 1970s housewife, but it turns out that the guy she is married to is a crime person, and one night he does not come back from work he was doing, and a friend basically collects her, gets some money out of the closet, and they go whisking off into the night. And she and her baby have to sort of figure out what to do and how to stay safe. And it is, I think so often in the last few decades, we have seen filmmakers really trying to nail that sweet spot of 1970s Hollywood, specifically that kind of auteurist driven new Hollywood period. And this movie gets about as close as I think I've ever seen as anybody, like from the 90s onward. It's somewhere between Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore and John Cassavetes' Gloria, in that it is very much about this woman and her life and her, trying to figure out where she's going to go and what she's going to do, but also not being somebody who is just kind of buffeted about by the larger, forces of this crime stuff that her husband was involved in that wasn't so much her. Brosnahan is great here. Arinzé Kene as the guy who shows up to help her out, and we find out why, because he's not just like a black guy who's in a movie to help her out. There's a reason behind it all. He's really great. He's in a really good British film a few years ago called The Pass that we screened at Outfest. It gets the 70s like decor and fashion choices really right, in that they're fun and crazy, but they're not. It's not the Brady Bunch movie. They don't go too hard on it, but just little things like there's a pink styrofoam egg carton. I was like, oh man, that's the thing I have not seen in a long time, but it like immediately takes me back. Just great performances across the board. I love the way this movie looks, the way it was shot. I think Julia Hart is just one of our like not talked about enough up and coming filmmakers who's really great. I love this movie.
I was thinking about you from very early on, Alonso, as I was watching this. The scene where early on she is like sitting, lounging out in the backyard in this like chiffon kind of cover up, and she's got like the perfect little like cigarette thing and the music, and it all looks totally idyllic because it looks like a Valley of the Dolls kind of idea of
Stepford Wives,
right, of like suburban bliss, like she's got it all, and then you go inside the split level house and like the wallpaper, like there's so much like textured wallpaper and all that, but it's not just that.
Right.
It would be enjoyable on merely a superficial level if it were just about capturing this time with the aesthetics and but it's not ever making fun of them like, oh, look how cheesy it was.
No.
It's very evocative.
Yeah, exactly. It puts you into a time and place.
And I let you know what kind of life she's living, because it is like tacky opulent. Like they're kind of like trying to blend in suburbia, but clearly there are great aspirations of living a higher class life, and this is the way it manifests itself with this kind of clothing.
Well, she's the trophy wife, right?
Yeah.
Like she's the trophy wife, right? She's the trophy wife mob mall that is kept completely out of the business, and has kind of been spoiled to the point that like she can't cook eggs, and not that that's something that everybody automatically knows how to do, but like it starts out as like, oh my God, she's awful at cooking, because she's never really had to worry about it. She's been very sheltered. And let's not forget that her baby, like, who the fuck's baby is that? Right? Her husband just shows up with the baby.
That's true.
Right? Yes. Like, oh, this is our son. Who is this? This is our son. What? Right? And yeah, I mean, so her husband is capable of interesting things. And, we learn early on, like, yes, Cal gets sent to take care of her and keep her safe. And then we meet Marsha Stephanie Blake and Frankie Faison.
Mm.
And the movie totally pivots at that point.
Mm.
And it still works. And they are both terrific in this. And so much gets, unspooled as the story goes on, and we learn more and more as we're watching her grow, as we're watching Jean, if not assert herself, learn to rely on herself.
Yeah.
And
there's a great sequence. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And then she does assert herself. Yeah. I love the journey that this movie goes on. And, that tactile feeling of being set in the late 70s, because it's not all just brand new out of the showroom 70s decor. It's
right.
Some of that stuff is 10 years older or 15 years older. And some of the stuff in Jean's house early on is brand new because that's the way they live. And then, you start to see, oh, this
it
old
fell off
thing,
a truck.
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Lufthansa heist.
Yeah. This movie is, and to a certain extent, it would be, if, Lorraine Bracco's character was mousy as opposed to who she is in Goodfellas. This is the story of Henry Hill's wife.
Yeah.
And
Karen.
Right, Karen. I mean, Julia Hart has talked about one of the things that's inspired her on this was, it's like what happens to the girlfriend in Thief, the James Caan movie, right? Like that would be, what happens to those in those 70s movies, what happens to the wives, right? If somebody has to go on the run and disappears, what does that mean for their family?
There's an amazing sequence about midway through with Marceline Hugo, who's a character actress I love. She's on The Leftovers, where the Jean is in this safe house, but they're not sure if they're being spied on or not. And then Marceline Hugo is like the classic sort of like neighbor who comes with hot dish, but you're like, is she just the neighbor with hot dish? Is there something more nefarious going on here? And it's like it's this very breathless sequence of like, where's this gonna go? And their conversations are just vague and banal enough to where there's nothing to hang on to. Where it's like, I don't know what you are. It's great.
We should mention that Julia Hart wrote this with her husband, Jordan Horowitz,
yes,
who is famous for anybody who watched the Oscars on the La La Land Moonlight year.
Yes.
Because he is the one who handled it so beautifully and with such class and grace when he held up the card that said Moonlight and said, you guys won, get up here. So,
I forgot about that was him.
They are married and she wrote this with him. And which is an interesting thing to think about as an exploration of marriage, like that they are writing this movie about a married couple that I assume is very different from themselves.
Well, we don't know. We don't know a lot and has produced her films. So they have a very powerful working relationship, as we've seen from what she's been doing.
Yeah, I love Fast Color. Fast Color pulls off a really tricky, cool balance of like being sci-fi but rooted. And it's ethereal, and yet relatable. And Gugu's always great. So
yeah.
She's got a great eye for talent. She worked with actors really beautifully, Julia Hart.
Yeah, the first Miss Stevens was the first thing I ever saw Timothée Chalamet in. Not to mention who is so wonderful in that movie is Lily Rabe, who's been gone on to do a lot of TV stuff, and I hope to see more of her in films as well. Anyway, yeah, I'm Your Woman, definitely in the hopper for me for best of 2020. It is opening theatrically today on the 4th, and then it'll be hitting Amazon Prime on the 11th. So check that out. I give this a 9.5.
Interesting, Matt.
I don't remember.
You said 8.5.
8.5. Yeah, for those people that are watching at home, Christy asked us before we start filming, what are our scores for all the movies?
and
I kind of like at that point, that's when I think about them. And then as we've talked 3 or 4 other movies and news, I forgot what I said.
I literally asked 2 hours ago. It was noon.
Yeah.
Now it's 2.
A lot's happened.
I'm a goldfish.
I'm saying 7.5. I really appreciated it aesthetically and the performances. Arinzé Kene, as you say, is amazing in this. It's a little too restrained. I would have liked maybe a little more character development on Rachel Brosnahan in this. I mean, she's very good, but like, who is she before all this? And I don't know that we get a great sense of.
I don't know that it matters.
Okay, maybe it's not. I was interested in finding out a little bit more about who she was before she married this guy.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
So 7.5. Our number is an 8.5. It's very good, though. It is.
Yes, check it out. And thanks for checking us out. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page over at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We're recapping The Mandalorian and The Queen's Gambit. We've got exclusive reviews coming up for our subscribers and lots of other fun stuff. So become one today. Thanks for joining us this week, you guys. Have a great week. Do your best. Take care of yourselves and each other. Wash your hands, wear a mask, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.